and Congress members seeking election were asked to give a pledge that castes and religious cries would not be raised in election. Many congressmen were returned to the Legislative Council, for which elections were held in 1924. I remember that election, first election that I took any part in. I was just leaving school. My father contested the seat, Colombo North, and his opponent was Victor Correa. Congressmen fought each other. I remember taking a bus round, gather voters, but very few voters came in my bus. My father lost the election to Victor Correa, and the slogan was, Correa Jayuna, Jaya Corona. Singly it means Correa Jayuna became Victor, and Jayavardhana became crippled. At the 7th session in December 1925 in Kandy, presided over by Francis Soita, later KC, a resolution to take steps to ensure a full measure of self-government in the next revision of the Constitution was moved by C. Correa and seconded by S.W.R.D. Bandaranaike and passed. For the first time, S.W. Bandaranaike, who had just come from Oxford, great reputation as an orator, took part in the Congress. While the older members and the founding fathers were passing away, like Arunachal, H.J.C. Pereira, F.R. Serenayake, E.T. De Silva, the younger generation like S.W.R.D. Bandaranaike were joining. The Congress was very active in 1926 and 1927, holding meetings all over the island and pressing the need for self-government. Sir P. Ramanathan, who by now was an elder statesman, took part in the debates on the riots, the 1915 to 1920 period, and he stood up so boldly for the Sinhalese that they almost worshipped him. When he went to England and came back after representing the cause of the Sinhalese and asking for a commission, and his ship landed in Colombo Harbour, the Sinhalese leaders, the Serenayake, the Jayavardhanas, the Kotalavanas, all went to the harbour, took the horses away from his carriage and dragged his carriage to what place as a mark of sincerity and tribute. In 1927, the British government for the first time announced the appointment of the Dunamore Commission, which would visit Ceylon to study the political situation. The Congress welcomed this, and a deputation led by E.W. Perera, presided over the 8 sessions in December 1926 in Gaul, went before the Commission on 23rd November 1927 and pressed the claim for self-government, opposed communal representation, and expressed a wish that universal franchise should not be granted till Ceylon citizenship was defined. At that time, all Sinhalese and Indians were British subjects, and the fear was that if all Indians in Ceylon obtained votes as British subjects, they would swamp many up-country electorates. I remember I just left school, going to one or two of these meetings that the Dunamore commissioners were holding. One occasion, there was an eccentric politician called C. Kure Bulasingala. He was giving evidence, and when his turn came, he got up to speak. The Earl of Dunamore said, Mr. Bulasingala, you need not get up, you can sit down and speak. He said, sir, I never sit down and speak. You know, I speak, I always get up. So they allowed him to give evidence while standing. Another occasion, some of the older generation hierarchy were not for universal franchise, and they went and criticized the Congress, saying the Congress people are nobodies trying to be somebodies. And when that gentleman came out to the veranda, he was nearly slapped by D.C. Serenayake. These are not in the report. The Congress continued to hold its session. In 1928, the President was W.A.D. Silva. In 1929, A.C.D. Vijayaku. In 1930, George E.D. Silva. And in 1931, C.W.W. Kannanga. The Secretary of State, Lord Parsfield, issued a white paper in October 1929 on constitutional reform. And since it was based on the recommendations from the Dunamore Commission report, they have since been called the Dunamore Constitution when implemented. On 1/1/11/1929, the Congress Committee decided to recommend to the Legislative Council to reject the Dunamore scheme of reform. S.W.R.D. Bandaranaike, Colonel T.J. Jayavardhana, Francis Soida, and T.B. Jaya moved the relevant motions. At the 10th sessions held in December 1929, Mr. George Silva in his presidential address supported the resolution that the Congress, while reaffirming its demand for full responsible government and the revision of the Constitution, recommended the acceptance for a short period of the proposed modified Dynamo scheme of reform. The Congress now prepared to face the general election under the Dynamo Constitution and universal franchise. At the 11th session held in Kandy in December 1930, C.W.W. Kannangara was elected president. At the 1931 general election, though the Congress did not work as a party and nominate candidates, Congress members won a majority of seats and congressmen became ministers with Sir D.B. Jayatilaka leading the House. In the meantime, many senior members resigned from the Congress, namely A. Gunasinghe, R. F. Perra K.C., E. W. Pereira, T.B. Jaya, Dr. E. V. Ratna, rejecting the Dynamo reform. A number of these, led by E. W. Pereira, formed the Ceylon Liberal League to oppose the acceptance of the Dynamo Constitution. S.W.R. Bandaranaike was elected president for 1932, and the Congress decided to give the Dynamo Constitution a trial, and after a time to ask for full self-government and accept nothing else. The Congress worked the Dynamo Constitution, and the presidents were 1933 G.C.S. Pereira, 1934 G.K.W. Pereira, 1935 E.A.P. Vijayaratna, 1936 to 1930 S.W. Amarasuriya, and Sir D.B. Jayatilaka in 1939. Decisions were taken during these years to attend a conference summoned by the Ceylon Liberal League to discuss Dominion status, to send a deputation to meet the relevant ministers of the UK, to revise the constitution, to introduce a reform bill in the State Council, and approve a draft constitution. A motion to appoint a nominations board to consider candidates for the next general election due in 1936 was defeated at a special session held on 28/9/1935. A general election was held in 1936 and many congressmen were returned. Sir D.B. Jayatilaka met the British ministers and officials in the UK in 1937. Resolutions were passed urging that Ceylon should be granted full responsible government, and a deputation met the governor in July 1938. The deputation consisted of S.W. Amarasuriya leader, E.A.P. Vijayaratna, J.N. Jinendra Dasa, W.R. Vijayamana, P.D.S. Jayasekara, and Victor C. Pereira as members of the delegation. S.W. Amarasuriya, E.A.P. Vijayaratna, and G. De Silva were elected to the deputation of the UK to meet the Secretary of State for the Colonies to discuss constitutional reform in July 1938. At the Parliamentary sessions held on the 7th December 1938, the 19th sessions, Sir D.B. Jayatilaka in his presidential address recommended the passing of the following resolution: removal of the offices of state, abolition of executive system of government, introduction of the cabinet system, independent public service commission, increase in number of seats 50 to 60, curtailment of governor's powers, retention of adult suffrage for the permanent population. I remember these sessions very well because that's the first occasion on which I joined the Congress. And soon after that, Siripala Samarampuri, Dharmi Senanayaka, Stanley de Souza, F.C. de Seram, C.P.G. Abhivardhana, J. Amaratunga, J.L. Kure, H.A. Portugada, all young men joined the Congress. Our aim was to revitalize the Congress and not give room for communal organizations like the Sinhala Mahasabha to grow. To organize a direct movement